Cool, we're in. Cool. So I'm sitting with Mr. Carl Smullen. Sir, thank you so much for sitting down and having a chat with me. I hope all is well with you and all is going good, as well as can be expected, I suppose, times that we're in.
Yeah. I'm keeping well. Family's keeping well. So yeah, it's quiet at the moment, but just as you say, once everybody is well, that's the most important thing at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I'm asking everybody straight away, like, how are you as a sort of student and somebody who's training coping with the thing, and how are you as an instructor who runs a club coping with the whole outbreak, and how are you sort of dealing with it, and kind of what are you doing to keep yourself up, I suppose?
Yeah, well, like for myself, I've a lot of hours now free in the schedule in the week. So like coming up as a student, obviously you train most of the time, the evening time, maybe between 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening. And then when you become an instructor, all those times are filled up. So you end up, having to find other times to train in the morning or squeeze a session in here or there. So I have those times available to me again now. So I'm doing a bit of kettlebell training, some movement training at the moment, just to give myself a bit of a focus. I'm trying not to watch too much news, which I think you can do too much of at the moment. For the club then, for our older guys, we're trying to kind of push them a little bit towards a little bit of self-motivation. So rather than setting out a plan, we're saying, well, you have the knowledge yourself. Here's some things to work on. So we have some people who would have been heavily competition-based for the last couple of years. We're giving them a chance now to look at maybe second-degree kicking techniques and hand techniques and theory. So it just gives them a different focus for a couple of weeks. The middle-level guys, then the blue and red belts, sort of pushing them again towards the first degree kicking. So we made some videos for them, get some kicking exercises and some mobility work for that. And then the younger guys, just really some feats of strength and stuff like that for the moment, because kids love feats of strength. So just something to keep them engaged. And we'll put a little bit more out hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But like everybody was just shut down pretty much in a day, so there was no time to prepare for this.
Absolutely.
Thursday morning, yeah. So can't complain at the moment. Like I've been in contact with a few parents, a few students, and everybody seems to be coping okay. So I think that's the most you can ask for.
Yeah, and I mean, I know what you mean. Everyone did kind of get blindsided by that, and I mean, I know, I mean, like you're renting your space as well, similar to me, and like we got a phone call and it's like, school's closed, sorry, bye. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it, yeah.
Write an email, and then suddenly you're trying to figure out how to do, bits of stuff online. And I saw stuff like very clever stuff that you guys put up with the Turkish get up with the shoe, to try and make a, because not everyone have a kettlebell sitting or necessarily need one, and that was really cool. I thought that was deadly. But yeah, it has been a bit of a scramble, hasn't it? And I mean, I think it's kind of cool though to see the ITA instructors and other instructors all over the world sort of kind of have to innovate on the spot, right? And we're getting loads of stuff out. I've seen more Taekwondo content on the internet in the past 3 weeks than I think I have in the last 3 years, and it's kind of cool, right? Because I'm going, oh, that's a great idea, and I can, that's another cool idea. And
yeah, that's it. Like a lot of the time we see this at the summer camp, or if you go to an IIC or a training camp or whatever, you'll see some drills. Like, it's nice now that everybody's putting up a piece, and yeah, absolutely, I'm stealing that drill and stealing that idea. So there will be some advantages in this, and there's some things I see that I want to ask instructors about when I meet up with them. So yeah, it's kind of forced us all to become a little bit more proficient with using YouTube and Facebook Live and stuff like that. But no, it's just different. Yeah. The whole world is facing the same issues at the moment. So
what can you do? Like, that's the problem, right? I mean, hopefully it'll all just sort itself out sooner rather than later. Because I think what if it finishes up, it comes summertime, right? That's traditionally the time when everything goes down anyway, right? So
yeah,
we'll sort of be going, well, here we are. with everyone on holiday, and they'll all want a holiday, haven't been stuck in their house for 6 months or whatever.
And there'll be a big backlog of events, all types of events. Absolutely. Trying to be squeezed into half the amount of weekends as we normally have. So
yeah. I mean, I know even with the Dublin Open being cancelled and stuff like that, that must have, there must be sort of thoughts in motion there from the board to try and sort of, can they slot that in somewhere in the future?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's...
But that's how quickly the whole thing happened, because obviously that was a discussion that started as a discussion, and then obviously got to the stage that it wasn't a discussion, it was just something that wasn't going to happen. Yeah. But that happened over the space of a few days. It went from, will this have to be cancelled? And people messaging and asking that too. Yeah, it's definitely cancelled. And then by the time it would have actually run, it obviously wasn't even a question.
Yeah.
So
Because
that was out, yeah.
I remember when we were humming and I was speaking with Master Weekly about this. He goes, sir, do you reckon this will be cancelled? And he kind of goes, look, there's only one case. It should be okay. And by the time I went to class next time, yeah, that's definitely off. And like that was a couple of days. And it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah. And the European Championships were the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that one, I think, whatever about the national tournaments that, you can kind of, yeah, but when you've been prepping for a camp and you're on the squad, especially new people coming through, you kind of feel for them,
Yeah.
But like, look, it's it's a small price to pay, I think, in the bigger scheme of things, right?
That's it. Yeah. Well, it's part of everybody doing their piece. I mean, it's the younger kind of people stepping back and stopping the spread. So yeah, like I think people can find maybe even a meaning in that it's not for nothing that these events are being cancelled. So.
Unfortunate, but necessary, shall we say?
Exactly.
But so, I mean, like, let's talk about something happier and enjoy talking about stuff that we actually do. So, I mean, for people that might know your sort of journey, I mean, I've known you now for a few years. I've seen you on the scene, and I know you had a long time, but I've only ever kind of seen you in the instructor guys, and I know you've had a sort of solid competitive career behind you as well. But maybe for people who don't know your whole story, why don't you give us the sort of how did you start Taekwondo and why did you stay with Taekwondo and sort of stuff?
Yeah, so I started Taekwondo in 1995 when I would have been about 7, 8 years old in Clondalkin. Myself and my brother, it was just kind of friends going to a local club. So we went along. I think we had some friends who were yellow belts, maybe green tags at that stage. So we went along. Our mother brought us to the class, and kind of in those days, like your mom or your dad would bring you to the class and sort of leave you there, and come back and pick you up. Like it was different than now, obviously, where parents come and they stay for the first class anyway, but definitely for all the classes after that. And just friends joined. We went along. We liked it. The club was run by Mr. Brendan Ryan in Clondalkin. I think Mr. Butler actually mentioned it when he was on with you last week. That was the club he was in as well.
Yeah.
And it was originally an ITF club, and then in the time we were there, it switched to be a WTF club. Okay. So we trained away there for years. And we didn't actually compete. We didn't compete in the tournament until we were red tags.
Okay,
so
wow.
Probably around 1999. So myself and Stephen went with our parents down to Cork for our first tournament, and had a nice tough introduction to sparring, having never competed in a tournament before.
Yeah.
So
and then to go in at red tag, right?
yeah, against some good people. And in those days, like the tournaments for kids were, say under 11 open height section, so you might get a joint in the first round. And yeah, from there, that was our first one. Went back 3 months later, the same kind of results. But we were entered through River Valley. Some of the people from our club were training River Valley a little bit on Sundays. So that's how we got to know Master Cooley. I remember I had finished competing, I was out, and Stephen was on sparring my brother. So Master Cooley came over. He's Mr. Cooley at that stage. He's a 4th degree. Came over and started to talk to my parents and myself. And then we started to go out then training in River Valley on Sunday morning. So, I mean, at that stage, we all know now River Valley, they're a top club and how good they are, but probably some people won't realise that they've been a top club like that for, over 25 years.
Yeah.
The junior team, when we were going out there on Sunday mornings, were excellent. There was dozens of black belts, the likes of Paul King, Luke Woods, people like Ross Smith. I think he was still junior at that stage, one of the older juniors. Darren Smith, all those guys were there, excellent, like high level students. So we were coming in quite inexperienced into that setup. So that
was a learning curve, quick, right?
Yeah, it was a tough, like every Sunday morning, like you kind of felt you were going to a tournament sort of thing.
Right.
Like from just the quality of the people there, they're always very welcome to us. So we trained there for a few months, and then eventually we made the switch over fully into River Valley. And our old instructor, Mr. Ryan, was quite good. He let us continue training on Thursdays. So we kept up the WTF training for years. Then we actually done our black belt as well as the ITF black belts. We done the Cookie One black belts as well. And when we went to River Valley then, so we were a bit of ground to make up. We were red belts by the time we joined. So we would go and we do like 2 or 3 classes sometimes in the day. We'd be in the red belt class, we come early, do the green belt class, stay on, do the senior class, just to get as much experience as we could. Started to do all the tournaments then, the Cork Opens, starting to go into Limerick when those tournaments started, and just build up experience. And then we went for our first degree black belt in 2001. I think Mr. Byrne actually mentioned the day he done his third degree under Master Hutton. That was when we done our first degree.
Okay.
If I'm right in saying. It was under Master Hutton, Mr. Cooley, and Mr. Walsh as well.
Yeah.
So that was kind of when we felt that we were fully in the club then, and we kind of come up to a good standard in River Valley at that stage.
And so, I mean, like that's a really interesting sort of pivot to go from that sort of WT style to the ITF style. And I mean, it didn't matter to you at that stage, or I mean, because I know some people I've seen it, guys come to my club and they go, I'm WT, this isn't the right place for me, or I'm ITF and WT. It wasn't a problem for you. It was like I just wanted to go. And
well, our club was the club we were originally in had been an ITF club, so our lower grades, we had done ITF patterns.
Okay, I'm with you.
It was in the process of switching over that stage, but like we did have some ground to make up in terms of competition experience and certain things of patterns and kicking, but no, like it was a good kind of balance between the two. I always enjoyed continuing then the Thursday sessions because it just gave you a different sort of perspective on it. WTF, and I should say for some people, WTF it used to be called, now it's WT, World Taekwondo Federation, but it used to be completely different style to ITF. Like it was a lot more spinning and kicking from the back leg and stuff like that. The Olympic style now is a lot more kicking the front leg. In a way, it's more similar if you look at the style. The ITF is like, in a way, we took ITF and took the hands out, and kind of went down that line forever. I think that's what it would look like. So at that stage, it did complement ITF style because it brought some spins and some different things that we weren't doing in ITF. In there,
That's cool. And I mean, like, I know, like you say, River Valley was a competitive club and it's always been a competitive club. And do you think that was, I mean, that obviously got ingrained in you straight away there. And I mean, like, did that culture, did that kind of attitude, did that come with you then later on? I mean, when you went to coaching yourself, and I mean, maybe I'll come back to this because I do want to just touch on your own kind of tournament experience before I do that. Actually, that's a better idea. I'll come back to that one. I mean, so talk to me through now. I mean, you've come in now and you're competing now, and you're first degree black belts. I mean, national team must have been in the picture at some stage. Was that on the agenda? Was that something that you were thinking we can go and push on and fight internationally now as well?
It was sort of a different setup at that stage. So the national team kind of structure wasn't as it is now. We did travel though, particularly to the tournaments, some in England and Scotland. There was some very good tournaments there, and to the Netherlands as well. Some of the Dutch tournaments where there was a very high standard. And then over the next couple of years, then the World Cups and European Cups started to open up a little bit more. So the European Cup in England was a big one. There's a big ITA team went there. The first time that we represented Ireland, myself and my brother, was the Junior World Championships in Italy in 2004. So at that stage, Junior and Senior World Championships were different. They were held in alternate years. And it was an ITA and AITA joint team. So Mr. Ryan, Master Cooley, Mr. Byrne were the coaches, Master Buckley at that stage. So that was kind of the stage we were all coming together. And I think it's kind of like the start of what would eventually kind of turn into the national team setup we had there. I think everybody, including the coaches, learned a lot from that trip. We had a training camp in Mr. Byrne's hall in Shannon for a week. So we went down there, stayed in the hall, cooked together, trained together, ate together, built a really good team spirit, and the team went over, and actually some of the team members actually done quite well. Like there was a good few from River Valley in there, so I can't remember off the top of my head the medalists, but I know Darren McDonough won a medal, I know Shane Maxwell won a medal, the boys won a team patterns silver medal as far as I remember, so it kind of showed that we could compete at that level.
And when you came back from that, was there a sense then after that terms like we might be onto something here and we need to push this? Or like, I mean, you say that's the kind of genesis of what we have now. Like, I mean, how quickly did you see that start to materialize then after that?
Well, like the squads then traveling to say World Cups as I say, 2006 and 2008, the World Cups were really big tournaments for the ITA. There'd be maybe 100 or over 100 competitors going. There'd be maybe 2 or 3 male sparring teams, 2 female sparring teams, senior. So we'd quite a lot of people in there, and that's where the ITA was making its mark, obviously internationally. People going through rounds and getting that experience, and for a lot of us then kind of seeing that was the level that we had to aspire to as competitors for some people, and then as coaches for others. And then at the same time, then we had people going to like Italian Opens and going to the Viking Cup, which was a very big tournament at that stage.
Yeah, I remember.
And the Impact tournament in England as well. And what was the big attraction at those tournaments was it was like league sparring, so kind of what we have now, but we didn't have that in Ireland at that stage. So the idea of going to an international tournament, getting 2 or 3, matches.
Yeah, instead of you just had a bad day in round 1 and that's the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're guaranteed to go and have 2 or 3 matches. So, that's basically where we started, and that's where we went through competitions. Like from my own point of view, then I competed until I was about 21, 22, because that's when I opened the club. Yeah. And at that stage, I took a break from competing, which is kind of still going at the moment.
Extended hiatus.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But just other things took over then.
Yeah, that's fair enough, right? I mean, so talk to me. What was the motivation to start a club? Like, what was it always on your mind? I'm going to go and be an instructor, or was it just sort of something that you kind of thought after a while, this might be something I'd be good at, or were you always drawn to coaching? Were you helping coach at all, or?
Yeah, like in River Valley, we always would help a little bit with coaching. When we became black belts, like there was a good culture of that, of helping out in the club. Master Cooley was good at promoting that. Sometimes when people would be going for black belts, a few of the higher grades, to kind of mentor them. So we'd break off with a student, and that'd be our sort of student to look after up to the black belt grading. Like I always thought I'd open a club, but maybe when I was probably the age I am now, when I was a teenager, I didn't think about starting it so early. But Master Cooley, then we had a chat with him, and he said, well, why would you not go and do it now? So we went and done that in 2008. I was 21, Stephen was 19. But I always had an interest in coaching, because I think maybe being the oldest in the family as well, and having my brother and having my sister were training as well, you kind of end up coaching a little bit anyway. So I always had that interest. And we started out 2 days a week, and then very quickly became our full-time job.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much after college. So it's the only full-time job I've ever had is a Taekwondo instructor.
Right. Wow. That's kind of cool. I mean, and so the club you opened in 2008, that's Newlands as we know today, or was it? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So, and
yeah.
I mean that you've grown that club quite successfully over the last kind of 12 years. I mean, was that? There's no accidents in this game. Like, I mean, how much of the culture that was kind of what I was getting at, how much that style of coaching, how much did Master Cooley's influence come into your own coaching style then? Because this kind of predates kind of, coaching courses and intro to coaching and all of this. So you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants in some ways, Did you say, right, I'm going to take everything that I've seen and just replicate, or did you say have your own ideas of how to put your own stamp on it?
It's probably a little bit of both. Yeah, like absolutely, Master Cooley is a massive influence there on our training, and on the way we taught, and the great support when we started off, particularly coming over to do grading. So myself and Stephen were 3rd degrees when we started, so obviously he was coming over doing the gradings, and it was always a big boost to the students, to have that senior figure coming in. Yeah. And then also from our own point of view, you felt you had to have your students up to standard, because and you know yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
When you have your own instructor coming to have a look at them.
It's kind of nice as well sometimes though, because you kind of sort of step away from that role and go, well, like, it's totally on you now. There's no, I can't say, and you're either at the level or you're not,
Exactly, yeah. And then obviously you have your own ideas as well. You see certain things you want to work on, or certain things that you prefer to do, or certain styles you like to work on. I think the first level 1 course happened around the time we opened the club, so we would have done that. It was a generic level 1 between all the martial arts and IMAX. So we got some good practical work there, and then it was just basically looking to see what other instructors are doing. I remember going to plenty of ITA summer camps and sitting at the back with Master Buckley or Mr. Byrne or Mr. Ryan or Master Manny, whoever's doing a session, and just watching with a notepad and taking some notes and, coming back with some drills on special technique or warm-ups or whatever games. My brother went to the camp in Poland a couple of times, so obviously that was something that a lot of ITA instructors done at the time, and a lot of good drills and ideas came from there. Myself and Paul King from River Valley then as well, we spent a lot of time traveling around the courses and on kettlebells and functional movement screen and stuff like this and training together. So taking some of those ideas into our training, and obviously that's worked very well with some of our national team competitors we have and some of the people who've excellent competitors who've come through River Valley over the last couple of years. Some of those different ideas that Mr. King has put in place in his club and I've put in place in mine. And then, just work into different summer camps, different ideas. Some of the stuff we've taken from Krav Maga training, which we do as well. And just kind of bringing all those different ideas into our own philosophy. And then obviously from working with your students and seeing what works and, what you need to refine over time.
There is no kind of magic bullet to sort of solve all problems. Every problem is unique. They all have their own different solutions. So tell me about, how do you structure your sessions? How do you structure your class? I'm keen to get into the detail. Do you plan out your season? Do you plan out is it month by month? Are you week by week? You must have long-term goals or short-term aspects. What's going through the head there when you're kind of going, okay, we have X and Y to Z to achieve? Talk to me a little bit about the process there.
Well, with the younger group, like the white belts before they get into tournaments or up to yellow belts, it's just getting to learn the game basically and giving them enough technical direction so they can pick the techniques and they can get started. Like a side kick, they just need to know you point a foot sword, you kick with a foot sword, and turning kick, you point the knee and you kick with the top of the foot, the instep. And then looking for some sparring games and some different things to get them involved. Then when they get up to the level that they're into tournaments, the way we generally do it is we'll pick a method of sparring or style of sparring and we'll work on that up to a tournament. So up to Munster this year, we were working a lot on kind of spinning shots and turning kick into back kick into turning kick, and doing different kind of situation sparring drills and matches that brought those in. And then we look at countering, so how to use your hands to counter it. So like instead of looking at what they need to do maybe to win that tournament, just trying to give them a style of sparring, work, and it'll suit some kids, others maybe not so much, but trying to kind of give them a good rounded, view of what sparring is. After Munster then, for the Dublin Open, we had started to work a lot on front leg, that kind of like high chamber, going middle, then going high. And then like the way we look at it is some kids will love that front leg style, they'll go with that, that's what they'll do. Other kids maybe the more spinny style or getting off the line. After that, maybe we might look at counter-attacking or whatever, but trying to kind of have a team coming up to the tournament. So you're not just kind of building up to the tournament every time, you're looking a little bit more long-term.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting approach, because you're like you say, you're teaching style, right? You're not necessarily just, here's every technique I know, and you go figure out how to make it work in a competition, having never tried to play with it in practice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like the thing is, part of it is physical. Obviously, certain kids will be big and tall and long-legged and flexible for the sections. Another part is sort of the mental side. Some kids don't like being hit in the face. They don't like going to hands, which, you can work on that, but sometimes it's not the worst thing. Like if a kid just doesn't want to go to hands, they can be a little bit more counter-attacking. They can pull somebody onto a side kick, trying to work on that style. And the way I always look at it is the front leg style, say, for example, if a kid is good at that, well, obviously they need to practice it. If a kid's not so good at it, they need to deal with it. So, even if you're not great at the style we're working at the moment, well, you'd at least figure out, what to do. And then we'd always finish the session with some free sparring. So, they get to do whatever they're, what their
the gloves are off, so to speak,
exactly,
and kind of just be loose. Yeah.
That's and then cool. With the older guys, then our national team guys, we'd generally sort of, around a year, we'd work on different things. Coming up to the tournament, we'd work maybe 8 to 12 weeks kind of out. We'd kind of a little training camp. So we planned those sessions in terms of conditioning, strength, work, sparring sessions, obviously based around the national team training as well, some recovery sessions. We'd know what the topic was going to be, but we wouldn't necessarily, we'd know what the theme of the session was going to be, but we wouldn't necessarily know the topic. So we might have a skill session planned for 3 weeks in, but we're not exactly sure what the skills will be. We'll see how the sparring is going and see where people are at that stage.
And so, I mean, at what point do you, think about, okay, where does the transition happen for you and your club from, club fighter, tournament fighter to I want to sort of think about being a national fighter and go on to that level? Is that is there a filter there? Do people come to you and go, sir, I want to be, world champion, or is it I think you should think about this? Is it a bit of both? Is there a culture there of you go through your grades and then you're always geared towards being a squad player, or is it sort of the journey is up to whoever? How does that work for you guys?
Well, we've been lucky with a good group of black belts we've had come through, like a very hard-working group. They would train with us 4 times a week, and they'd come down an hour early on the 3 weeknight sessions, and they'd work themselves beforehand. So that culture has kind of come through most of our black belts there then, that they just do the same. Now, it can be a headache for us because you're teaching a session that between myself and Stephen could have 30 or 40 kids in it, and at the back you have another 15 black belts who are a distraction. But I think it's a good distraction because the parents are seeing that's where they can go, and the kids are seeing that the level there, and you're able to pull an experienced black belt in and talk to the kids about that this black belt started off the same as you, and they can kind of see what's possible for them. I think before they get to the national team level, that they have to be sort of training for it. Our people who done well last year in the national team, they were still training the 4 times a week, coming down an hour early before that was there. And that's a conversation we've had with some of the younger guys coming through now, is that don't wait until you get there, or if you aren't selected, don't say, well, next year I'll put the work in. Keep working with them. We had 6 people selected last year, this year for this campaign. So then we try to keep as many of the other black belts training with them as possible, because they will go through the same campaign as these guys. That'll benefit them in the Irish tournaments, but also then next year if they go, they kind of have almost a campaign behind them. They have everything except the actual tournaments. They've done the conditioning, they've done the rounds, they've done everything that's involved with a national team campaign.
That kind of experience has to pay dividends, to get that sort of experience while you're coming through and you're not necessarily there, but you see what's coming and it's not a secret or it's not a surprise when you have to go and then do it, or
Yes, yeah.
So I mean, you're a busy man. You wear many hats, both for your club and for the ITA, and between instructing in Newlands and you're an instructor in your own Krav school as well, and you're the umpire chair commission for the ITA. You're the IMAC and TAB liaison there, the TAB secretary. I mean, have you got a very patient family, or how does that balance? How do you get that balance right? That's one of the
Yeah, well, I do have a patient wife, but obviously it's a lot of weekends away. But now that I'm home 24/7, I think she might be looking for me to take a few more jobs on when we get back to normal. Like a lot of the things you will be involved in, like tournaments, some of the coaching things you would be involved in anyway, because you're involved in Taekwondo. Like we're all involved in tournaments. I would have been an umpire when I finished competing. My brother was still competing senior, so he would be competing on Saturday, so I would umpire on Saturday to make sure that we met the umpire quota, and obviously it's something that needs to be done as well. And I would generally be on the black belt ring, and I would be centre referee or jury president on one of the senior black belt rings. Over time then, when Master Barry stepped away from being the umpire chairperson, then I put myself forward for that, and I came in there. Did you plan on that? Did you sort of say, if this comes up, I really want to be the
the umpire chair here? Like, was there stuff you thought you could bring to this or improve upon, or just was just
No, like not particularly. Like there was the tournaments. I mean, have been continuously improving. I think over the years for umpires, for competitors, for spectators, for everybody. So I just they were looking for somebody to do it, and somebody put my name forward, so I said I would, for at least a year and see how it went. It's been good. Like there's a good committee there between Master Buckley, Mr Ryan, myself, my brother. We all, like, I'm the umpire chairperson, but we all try to work across the whole spectrum of the tournament. Like we deal with all the issues together, what would make the tournament better. If there's umpiring decisions to be made on the day, we try to have consensus between the tournament committee, so it's not just one person, making a decision. The coach developer, the tutor stuff, I put myself forward for that a couple of years ago, when they were seeking applications. So I've tutored on a good few intro courses now on the level 1. I learn, I'd say, as much from them as the people taking part in the course every time, because firstly, tutoring alongside Mr. Byrne, you pick up a lot of stuff on the delivery of the course and what's involved. Master Cooley with his experience, with tutoring Master Barry as well, and the same. And then you get students coming from different clubs, so you get to see the philosophy that different instructors bring to training. Some clubs that are more tournament focused, others that are more martial arts traditionally focused. We've the level 2 course now coming online this year, and a review at the level 1. So now is actually, we're working on some of that stuff at the moment. It's a good time to get that work in there. And I think it's just leveling the playing field for everybody. Like if people come from a club that maybe isn't too tournament focused, well, this gives them a chance to pick up some maybe more sparring related stuff. And if people maybe are more sparring focused, the coaching courses can kind of develop them into more of a rounded instructor, before they open the club. What else do I do? I just the IMAC stuff then as well. Like I'm the IMAC committee and the TAB representatives there. We get good support from the ITA, from IMAC, and we try to contribute to our piece as well. We've got a few people from the ITA now involved in the TAB Master.
I definitely want to come into the IMAX stuff in a sec, but I just want to talk to you and sort of stay on the tournament stuff for a minute, because it's an interesting thing to get this sort of, the insight to the administrative view of tournaments. You know what I mean? A lot of people mightn't fully appreciate what goes into making a national tournament tick, and like maybe for people who aren't aware, like give us a breakdown of supposing the next tournament has to be organized, what sort of timelines go into preparing for that? Like how?
Yeah, well, it almost from one tournament straight to the next, or when you have the Dublin Open coming on the back of the Munster Open so quick, you're preparing for two at the same time. So after it starts with the end of the previous tournament, we'd review the sections, we'd review any issues that came up. So the sections are changing all the time. My brother particularly would look and see the numbers that we have, where we need to divide a little bit more. Sometimes an instructor or an umpire would call us over and say there's a big height difference in that section. So we see, right, when we're putting out the invitation next time, we have to divide the sections up a little bit more. We'd have to look see what equipment we need. So, all the time there's a big investment from the ITA in even stuff like flags and clickers and stuff like that, and making sure that all the equipment is there. And then the week or two before the tournament is just full on. So between trying to get 9 rings worth of umpires and senior umpires, make sure that we have everybody in there, and the scheduling of the tournament, which my brother does, which is I try to stay away from, because it's like solving 10 Rubik's cubes at the same time. I don't know, how it's done, but it seems to work out. But between the electronic scoring and sport data coming in now, it's been great. It's helped up the professionalism of the tournaments and the efficiency. But it brings its own challenges now. Like we have to set up the electronic scoring on the rings. We have to have the network cables running back to the main table and to the medal awarding area and stuff like that. But I'm proud of the work that the tournament committee does, and also the ITA as a whole. Like the amount of instructors that come early and help set up on a Friday evening, or staying back to 9 o'clock on a Saturday night to help us set up for the next day. It's fantastic. Like, we all are part of it.
It really is. I mean, you see it, and I hear people comment on it when they go to these tournaments, and they've been to other tournaments, and they just always the standard of and the professionalism. I think that's something you really hit on. Sticks out to people. I mean, is it a double-edged sword sometimes? Do you think people find the ITA tournaments a little bit intimidating? Maybe. Have we ever had people sort of say, "Well, I'm not going there. That's out of, you know."
Yeah, well, like from my own point of view, my own club, we would do the ITA tournaments. Like, they're the tournaments that we do. I would always try to say to people that they're fairly high standards. They're some of the best tournaments in the country. The standard is high. You will end up against good people. But my belief is that it really doesn't matter what results that the kids get. I think being there, you get maybe 80 to 90% of the benefit from it, no matter how far you go.
Yeah.
I think it's trying to keep people encouraged and keep them involved is the most important thing. I know we're going to go back to coaching on this, but like, as somebody who's come through that, as I say, I didn't do my first tournament as a red tag, so I know what it's like to fight in a tough tournament. But what I would always say to parents and to kids is that when you're sparring in the club, there might be 20 people sparring at the same time with one instructor watching. In the tournament, you have 8 black belts watching your match, and you've got one person standing a meter away. So yeah, it might be a little bit tough. You might get a hard kick now and then, but it's safe. You're well looked after.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably is a bit intimidating for some people. And it is a shame sometimes when you get people go and they don't come back after a tournament. But all you can do as an instructor is just try to minimize that. Try to talk to people beforehand. Try to prepare them for it. And also try to prepare the kids that, they probably will, in their first tournament, there's a good chance that they're not going to win, because every kid goes in expecting to win. Every Disney film they've ever seen,
yeah, right,
that, you'll win. That's usually the hardest part for them. It's not the kick or the punch. It's the fact that they see 5 flags turning against them.
And that's the brutal honesty of competition sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And
but it's something that you need to get used to, because if you can survive that and get through it, that will stand you.
It's something I hear listening to people who've coached people all over the world about this, and they're saying the same thing. I lost, I won. And it's this stick-to-itiveness and perseverance that which we preach enough about, that I think really pays dividends. I mean, I think one of the things that I'm really curious to know, where do you see the ITA tournaments going, or in the future? Like, because they're quite large events now. I mean, do you think they can keep growing, or are we going to reach a point where they need to be sort of thought about splitting them up further, or where do we what would you like to see happen with them? Where would you like to see the tournaments going in the long run? Would you like to see another one added to the calendar if possible, or?
It could do. Like, we're now in probably 3 of the biggest arenas in the country, which is fantastic. That our sport, is being represented in the big halls in the tournament in the country. The University of Limerick Arena, the Indoor Arena in Dublin, and the Waterford Arena. And so space isn't so much a problem now. It's getting the umpires. So we switched from 7 rings to 9 rings in Cork and in Dublin, or in Waterford and Dublin. So that brings those challenges of having enough umpires. What I'd like to see will be the senior divisions to continue to grow. I think keeping our black belts on board when they're not selected for national team, and even some of them when that isn't their goal. So try to get senior black belts to not just see the tournaments as maybe like a stepping stone to the national team. See, like, that if you're the Irish national champion of ITF Taekwondo in the ITA, which is the government recognised, or part of the government recognised NGB, the Martial Arts Commission, that's a big deal. So trying to keep some of the senior competitors involved. And we had some internationals registered for the Dublin Open this year. Last year we fit a team of 50 from Norway with some people from Sweden. So try to attract some people in, because I think we actually have quite a good crop of homegrown people here. I don't think there's many countries around that could put the amount of quality competitors into the different categories that we can do. So that's what I'd like to see. I think maybe over time it might just naturally get to the stage that we would have below a certain age would be regional. So maybe up to green belt or something could be regional, and then beyond then you would go to your national tournaments. Like it could be a stage that in Dublin the local yellow belts compete, same in Waterford, the same in the Midwest. But I like it at the moment that we all meet up. We have the same tournament pretty much 3 times a year, just in different venues.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it is definitely, and I always get great response from my students when they come back from tournaments. You know, win, lose or draw, right? There's always a good day out. You know, and the parents are always quite complimentary of it as well. This is, you know, it was great crack. I mean, and yeah, you know, it's I always kind of enjoy watching parents watching their children competing. It's kind of it's fun to see. But you know, I like your idea of a regional sort of tournament. I think that's a really interesting idea. I often thought like a regional kind of league structure would be really interesting around, you know, Dublin or like say the Midwest or Waterford, Cork, or whatever. I don't know how you do it, and I can imagine the administrative nightmare that it would be. But yeah, I think it would be kind of fun to explore that one. You mentioned about being the NGB, and I mean the stuff like, I mean the role that IMAC, or the Irish Martial Arts Commission, plays now in our association. I mean that's not a small part. That's a big thing for us to have, and to, you know, I always get this response from parents when I say, well, we're this and we're this and we're in IMAC and we're in Tab, and because of that we have this and we have this and we're level 1 and we have first day, and the eyebrows kind of raise up, you know. It speaks volumes to the sort of quality that we're putting out as instructors, and I mean that's not by accident. I mean, maybe you might speak to a little bit about the role that IMAC plays, and you know why it benefits us in the association.
Yeah, well, the Irish Martial Arts Commission, that's the national governing body for martial arts in Ireland, and the ITA is part of TAB, so we're the association member in the Taekwondo Advisory Board, and that gives us access to a lot of different benefits for instructors and for members. So safeguarding, our guard vetting, the safeguarding 1, 2 and 3 courses, some of the necessary education that instructors need and students need, and some of the necessary qualifications and requirements you need to open a club or to teach students. And then there's a good safeguarding network there between club children's officers, national children's officers. So if there are issues, you know, that need to be addressed, there is a pathway there for them to be looked at, and instructors can be kept up to date about what's the best practice for dealing with members of all ages. The coach education then is another massive side of it. So we have a number of coach developers, that's the new word for what used to be called tutors, in the ITA, and all of us done our 5-weekend course with Coaching Ireland, or Sport Coaching Ireland, to learn basically how to deliver the different courses. We've developed the level 1 course for ITA instructor, or for Taekwondo instructors, with the level 2 coming online now. So to have all the instructors coming kind of from a level playing field when it comes to their education for coaching. Obviously people come from different backgrounds, have different experiences, but to see the younger members coming through the intro course who will be quite knowledgeable when it comes to Taekwondo and sparring and patterns, to see them develop their communication skills and to see them develop their skills for coaching is fantastic. And then to know anybody opening a club has done at least 6 days of coach education as part of the course, their intro and their level 1, and in time their level 2 course. I think that's increasing the quality of instructor and coaches around the country, not just at the head level, also assistant instructors. In my own club, I've got 3 instructors, well, myself and my brother, and we've got 2 other instructors who've gone through level 1. And when you break a group of students off with them, or you ask them to plan a class, the quality of the delivery that you're seeing is fantastic. So all those little things just help to raise the standards across the board. And then the other thing with IMAC is it's probably quite unique in that we've got Taekwondo and kickboxing, karate, aikido, kendo, I've listed in front of you, wushu, ninjutsu, tang sudo, all coming together, sitting around the table, discussing ideas, you know, being open with each other about what's working for us, how we can develop. I think that's a fantastic side. We get to see what the other martial arts are doing. So, you know, it's been a great benefit, I think, to the ITA, being part of that. And obviously the certain requirements and certain standards we have to meet to be part of this. An instructor can't just open their club. They have to be level 1 before they do it. So that's something that all the instructors have signed up to, which I think is a credit to the association.
Yeah, I mean, it's also given great visibility to some of the legal requirements that we need to meet as well. I mean, things that people mightn't have been aware of even just walking through. And I think it's a fantastic resource for instructors. And certainly, I don't think you're in a worse place for going through this training afterwards. Do you know what I mean? There's nobody that could, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want your instructors to have gone through this, I'm curious, like, if I might just change tack a little bit, just really quickly. You're not just a Taekwondo expert as well, right? You've diversified your skill set a little bit with a bit of Krav as well. And I mean, what was the thinking behind that? Any particular attraction to it? Is it just?
Well, we don't have adult Taekwondo classes in our club, and it was something that we were looking at, just something different for an adult class. Master Kulu was involved in Krav Maga at that stage, so there's an instructor course in Ireland. To become a Krav Maga instructor, you have to do it. It's a 23-day course, so it's 9 days, 9 days, and 5 days. So I done that in 2009, and it just, some of the areas of Taekwondo that we didn't focus on so much, the self-defense side of Taekwondo, was something that we addressed with our Krav Maga. And there's a good overlap. I mean, striking is striking, movement is movement. There is a good overlap. There's certain areas though, maybe like multiple attacker fighting, ground fighting, weapons, stuff that we wouldn't have done too much in Taekwondo. We hit with the Krav a little bit more. And now we're at a stage that kind of one complements the other quite well. That we've got a lot of parents who have their kids in their Taekwondo class, or people bring their kids to our Taekwondo class and then they join the Krav Maga class. So there's a good community there, like that the Krav Maga has brought to Taekwondo. I do think Taekwondo is quite good for self-defense, particularly the sparring. Firstly, the idea of standing and fighting somebody in a tournament and feeling that flight or fight response, something that I think you have to face. I think Taekwondo gives you that. And then if you're doing your patterns training properly and using like fingertips and elbows and knees and stuff like that, a little bit in your training for sparring, like not just a competition style sparring, I think you can get that from Taekwondo a little bit as well. But we just found Krav Maga gave us just something a little bit different and a different focus as well from our own training. Like myself and Stephen have been to Israel for Krav training. We go over there to do maybe like an 8-day camp a couple of times over the last couple of years. And we train with a master in Israel called Eyal Yanilov. And he's got a great sort of mindset for training, and he's got some great ways of developing aggression and keeping yourself calm and under control in fighting situations. So some of that has complemented some of the stuff we do even with our national team competitors over the last couple of years.
Fantastic. It's interesting. I mean, I know I've done different martial arts as well in my time, and I definitely think they when you have a bit of a holistic view about martial arts, you get a different perspective. And like you say, they you can find complementary elements in all of them. And I mean, there is no master key, right? No one martial art is the martial art, right? That's why that's why we have loads. So I mean, it's interesting, But I'm just maybe before we I know we've been sort of talking for a long time, but I wanted to just tweak your opinion on kind of, because we focus a lot about tournament sparring, and I'm just curious about the sort of other elements of tournament that specifically patterns training and stuff like that, and how you think we as a country are doing in patterns training. I know we when we look at the national team, we're phenomenally successful maybe in sparring, right? But are we getting that result in patterns? And do you think is there something that we're missing here? Are we missing a trick in patterns in Ireland in competition, or do you think it's just our time hasn't come yet?
Well, it probably is the case that the sparring side has been quite successful, and that's probably the side that people are drawn to a little bit more. I think it's a little bit easier to see from my own point of view when you put work into sparring, see a direct result. Sometimes you don't see that maybe in patterns. It's harder to see what needs to be worked on to get that result. We had our first student selected for patterns this year. So we had a student, Reen Burmas, on the junior boys patterns team last year. And this year we had one of our students, Quiva, was selected for patterns. So we were enjoying that work, myself and my brother, to work with somebody for patterns, and the challenge of trying to get that into the club, because, as I said, coming up to the tournament, we do maybe an 8 or 9 week training camp, and we'd have so many rounds of sparring, conditioning rounds, different types of methods we use for conditioning.
Cool, we're back in, sorry. Yeah, no, sorry, just that was the last thing before we kind of got caught by the internet ghosts.
Yeah.
Patterns, sort of, you were saying you were building up to a tournament and you had these sort of 8, and like, how does that finish out there? Sorry, I mean.
Okay, so so we had our first student selected for patterns this year, so it was kind of a new challenge that we were looking at, learning from the other coaches who had been in that position before and what they did, and then certain things we want to look at ourselves for developing power alongside the technical content, and getting in plenty of rounds of patterns during the week. And so we were looking forward to working on that. We were making good progress, and looking to see how that will go. I think it's a challenge when you're trying to compete across patterns, sparring, special technique, and power breaking. The question, I guess, is how much can you be a multi-discipline athlete, and how much do you need to put that time into one sport? Probably as the level goes up, people are feeling maybe a little bit more that they need to move into one a little bit earlier.
Do you think that's a problem, specializing early?
Yeah, like from my point of view, we would have our black belts competing in patterns up to now. Even the ones who be doing, say, quite well in sparring, and that's obviously the area that they're focused on. We still like them to enter patterns because it keeps them focused a little bit on patterns for grading, maybe a little bit, and then also even when they go to the tournament, it's getting them out into the mats once before they spar. Maybe it's shaking out a few nerves. It's given a little bit of a different focus earlier in the day. It's a bit of distraction, if nothing else. And then some others, maybe they're not at the level of sparring yet to think that they can just focus on it. They need to be a little bit more all-rounded, because maybe they will make it to be an excellent sparring competitor. Maybe they won't be, and patterns should be what they were focusing on in the first place. Or maybe they won't be a competitive athlete in a couple of years' time. They might be an instructor, they might be an examiner, or they might be an umpire. So they need to keep well-rounded, and I don't think specialization too early, will be good for anybody. I think that like even the kicking routines from patterns are great for obviously the hip mobility, balance, and then also even just like conditioning. It's great. You never get so tired as doing technical kicking. So it's a good thing for everybody to keep a bit of balance on.
And like it gives you something to do when you're locked away at home and quarantine as well. Right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Unless you want to spar the cat, But one thing that I'm asking all instructors now is, in the rise of kind of things like MMA and mixed martial arts, it's become very popular, and it's how does a sort of traditional martial art like Taekwondo keep its position in the sphere of or in the vision of martial arts by comparison? When you see these things that are highly well paid and have such high profile on them now, do you think there's a risk or a threat to Taekwondo as a sport or as a martial art, or in terms of its, I keep saying relevance, but I don't mean that in that sense, in terms of its in terms of just being in that sphere and it talked about in that world, and do we risk losing an awful lot of people that would have traditionally come to us to go to do something like MMA or something like that?
Yeah, probably to a certain degree, yes. I think we would. Like that's a lot more visible at the moment. It's getting a lot more mainstream media. We probably benefit on the other hand a little bit, because there would be some kids who want to join something like MMA and their parents would say, well, no, there's no way you're doing that.
Yeah.
I did see what we do maybe as being not as heavy contact, or maybe a little bit more structured, because it's the martial arts side to Taekwondo. I think stuff like what you're doing and some of the other instructors putting out some of the good media stuff to promote what Taekwondo is, and I think the clubs kind of promoting their classes through social media to show that there's good fitness benefits to Taekwondo, and that there's a good sparring level there. not just the senior black belt competitive sparring, but like for an adult in their 40s or 50s to join Taekwondo and go and compete, that they can go and they can kick and punch and have a good match in a safe environment, and they can test themselves a little bit there, and then also that they can earn a recognized black belt, because that's something that is high up on the agenda for a lot of people when it comes to goals as a kid or something that they always wanted to do. It is still a possibility there for you. Like I think our numbers have continued to grow probably overall, even with the rise of MMA, and our teams are doing quite well. So there will be a bit of a trade-off. Some people have a preference and they'll go that way, but I think probably overall we will end up getting a few people in there as well. So it probably balances out.
Okay, that makes sense, I suppose. I mean, okay, look, how about we just sort of take the brain out for a second and just I'm doing this with everyone, little rapid fire questions about Taekwondo stuff that see what your sort of reflex response is, and if you want to play.
Right.
Okay, cool. Tell me your favorite pattern.
Moon moo.
Everyone says moon moo. Tell me what your toughest fight was.
I'm not going to do my toughest fight. There was a very good competitor from England a couple of years ago called Felix Kelly. That was my toughest fight in the European Cup, I think, over there in 2005 probably, or something like that. That was a tough one.
What about your best memory from Taekwondo?
Best memory. I think probably because it's very recent, but two of our students meeting in the final in the European Championship last year was a very good memory. And then a lot of memories then are just away from training. So just hanging around with our friends and being part of a group, training away, not particularly tournaments. Like, I think that's nice. Probably it.
Have you if somebody stood 3 boards in front of you and said break them, what would you pick?
An axe, probably.
Hey, there we go. That's
no, a sidekick.
Sidekick, yeah. And so you're standing on the mats in your next test, and which pattern would you definitely not want to get?
I think Samuel. It just turning and stuff like that. It's one that it's a bit of a bogey pattern for me.
There you go. That's the one you're going to get now because it's a record. So
it's out there now, yeah.
It is indeed. Mr. Smullen, I've had great crack chat with you this evening. I really appreciate you coming and talking to me. It's fantastic the work you're doing for the ITA and for IMAC and for everything else that you're doing. It's tremendous and speaks volumes to the work ethic you have and that you're obviously instilling in your students as well.
Thank you.
If people want to contact you for training up in Newlands or wherever else, I mean, this is your chance. The mic is yours. Go plug.
I guess our website, newlandskd.ie, or just our Facebook page, Newlands Taekwondo Club. That'd be the best place to find us.
Super. Okay. Well, look, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and I hope you stay safe. Say hello to the family and look after yourself.
Will do. Thank you.
Catch you on the mat soon, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Bye.